We have the worst luck with technology.
We do. Good evening, guys. Welcome along to another Blether with. I am going to be here for about 5 minutes, and then I'm coming out, but I will be back. I am having some minor technical issues with my laptop, but I just need to get that sorted. So I'm coming to you from my phone just now. With Kat, who will host for the start of the evening. Hello, Kat. How are you?
I'm all right. I don't know if it's because you're on your phone, but you honestly sound like you're so far away at the bottom of a hole in like another continent. You're like your voice is teeny totty.
Which is exactly why I'm going to grab another laptop and take work. Before we do that, guys, let us know what's in your glasses. I know Ian is on the non-alcoholic shandy bass in the glass tonight. So it's obviously something going on that he needs to be non-alcoholic for.
I think he says he's in the North Sea, so I'm hoping he's working either on a rig or fisherman.
As well as juggling a dark challenge at the same time. That's a lot of things to be doing. So good luck with that. Hopefully nobody gets hit by the darts, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I hope he's not on a fishing boat if he's playing darts. That's a recipe for disaster, that. Okay, yeah. Willis is saying he can't hear you either, Mike, so it's definitely your phone that's causing problems.
Definitely phone. Okay, what we'll do is we will get Alain on. Kat, because people can hear you, do you want to introduce tonight's guest?
Yeah. Okay. So everyone, for everybody that's just joined us, Mike is just going to nip off for a second and find a computer so everybody can hear him. But we are going to get Alain Campbell from the Tiree Whisky Company and from Tiree Gin. He's going to come and chat to us for a little while, and then hopefully we'll get Mike on in a little bit. Is that you heading off, Mike?
Yep. See you soon.
Cool. We'll catch you in a bit. Okay. Right, Alain. Sorry about the chaos. Okay. So yeah, this is Alain, everyone. So you know what? I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourself, tell everybody what you do, what you're doing out on Tiree, and all about what you're making out there.
Cool. Hi. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. My name's Alain. Thanks for introducing me, Kat, and hello to Mike as well. I'm from the Isle of Tiree, and I'm one of the two directors of Tiree Whisky Company, and we run Isle of Tiree Distillery, where we make 3 gin products and we make 2 whiskey products. Now, we mostly make single malt, but we'd also have a lot of single grain, which is actually a rye whiskey. But yeah, we're mostly focused on single malt, but yeah, we've got a wee sideline with the rye. We both quite enjoy it. My business partner who can't be here tonight is Ian Smith. He sends his regards. He's having a couple of days off. But yeah, it's nice to meet you all.
Fantastic. So, talking about what's in your glass, I tonight have I always turn it around the wrong way. There we go. I have your gin here tonight, which is lovely.
Thank you.
That's right. I've just moved house, so I don't actually have a proper gin glass. So I've got a little dog on my gin glass. But it's fantastic. So we've had it in the shop for a while now. So I mean, it's mainly, I think, main botanicals like kelp, is that right? And sort of forage Tiree kind of plants.
The thing with the Tiree gin is we try to use a lot of native ingredients in it. With our pink gin and with our summer gin, I'm not going to call them exotic things like black pepper, but it's not quite exotic. But the things that are in the Tiree gin are very much native to Tiree. So as you mentioned, the kelp there, and also a couple of botanicals that are harvested in the Macher grounds. So you guys in the northeast will know what Macher is, but a lot of folk don't know. It's the kind of sandy soil around about the shore. It's quite a fertile area, and you get a lot of biodiversity in these areas. And there's plenty of wee interesting flowers, and one of them that we use is eyebright, and the other one's called lady's bedstraw. Along with, I guess, watermint as well grows in parts of Macher that have dried out. That's another ingredient that's native to Tiree. We also have Angelica root in there. That, I mean, I know that's in a lot of gins, but it's where we are with the distillery, and at this time of year, it's just popped up everywhere. It's all over the place. So, yeah, the botanicals that are in the Tiree gin are very much native to Tiree, and a kind of, I guess, a reflection of the landscape where And if you want to say with our Hebridean pink gin, we've used raspberries, and that's the kind of second biggest botanical after juniper. They're all very much juniper led. Juniper's, I guess, the heaviest by mass botanical that goes into the still. But that's you've hit the nail on the head with the Tiree there. Yeah,
that's fab. It's got like kind of grassy, kind of herbal flavors to it, but it's really, really good. It's lovely. And Rick, I am mixing it with something that's not just pure gin that I've got in that glass. It does have tonic in there for those asking.
Good.
How do you deal with kelp? Like what? Oh, well, firstly, do you distill the gin at Tiree?
Yes, we distilled the gin. I don't know if anybody reads the newspapers and that. But we had a lot of negative press when well, not a lot. We had one negative kind of article about our business when we set up in 2016, early part 2017. So our recipe, it was a fellow called Charles Maxwell at Thames Distillers that helped us develop the recipe, and he actually made our first batch for us. So we were already in the process of setting up the distillery at this point, and it was really just one batch. But yeah, we kind of got tarnished with this thing that we didn't make it on the island. But yeah, we've been producing on the island for a number of years now. And if you want to know a wee bit more about the production process, it's not like a concentrate that we're making. I'm sure a lot of your listeners tonight will understand the difference between a kind of single batch gin and a concentrate gin. So it's all single batch. Everything that's in the bottle has been distilled on the island. Basically, the botanicals go in the still, the ethanol and the water. That's distilled and then condensed, and then we have heads, hearts and tails and our product run in the middle there. I guess if you're making a concentrate, you could do what's known as like a 10-shot gin. It's where you would take that botanical mass that you used for your single shot and you would times it by 10. And I guess the analogy is like a Robinson's orange juice or something. You'd be left with a really oily concentrate, and you can then mix that with ethanol and water, and then get down to your desired bottling strength. But what happens then is that you're selling some product that has alcohol in it that's not actually been distilled by you. You're kind of cutting your concentrate distillate with it, but that's not the way that we work at the moment.
So you splitting your time between the gin and the whiskey? Is it sort of like an even split through the year, or?
Yeah, I mean, it is and it isn't. Winter times when we crack on with production, as I'm sure you guys know, January, February, March, a lot of people are on health kicks, and it's not really the time of year to be, drinking a lot. We're the same ourselves, so we crack on with the whiskey production. It's nicer to work on the whiskey in the winter time, apart from the heat up times. So heat up times are affected in the winter time, but yeah, we tend to have cooler fermentations, and the wash looks a little bit nicer, I'd say, in the winter time with the lower, slower fermentation rather than the kind of fast one that you're getting at this time of year. I'll probably talk about it a wee bit later on, but the type of building that we're distilling in, it's got a real effect on everything, really. Now it's a concrete floor and a tin-clad portal, kind of shed, really. It was actually Ian's dad's builder's yard, and we converted it. We put new cladding on it. We took it back to the frame, the steel frame. Now that tin gives you a huge temperature range, but also it can act like a bit of a magnet for the heat, and it gets pretty hot in there in the summertime. So we're always kind of battling against that, and we also run our condensers inside as well. So we have to have quite a lot of ventilation because we run our condensers quite hot. They're worm-tip condensers. We're well ventilated, which it leads to cold temperatures in the winter time, and the tin itself leads to warmer temperatures. And we're doing everything in the distillery as well. So the gin production, the whiskey production, and the maturation happens in there. So we've got a thermometer that logs the temps for us, and our record lows like -3, and our record highs like 42.2 or something. So we have a big fluctuation in temperature over the year, which you really have to take into account when you're working with alcohol and liquids in the distillery.
That's bloody hot. I mean, that's like
Yeah,
half.
I should say it was only that one. You know, when we had that really warm spell a couple of weeks ago, that's when it hit that, and that temperature had actually stood there since 2018 at some stage. So we only came close to it this year. The last couple of years, we haven't been anywhere near it. And it's only a couple of days a year, but we've got a kind of a mean temperature, which is much more manageable. Yeah.
Is that why he's so famous for? It's like fertile land, because like I was reading the name Tiree, it literally translates either as like the valley of like the grain store, or like the land of barley, or the land of corn. Like you guys must have some pretty good growing ground over there.
There's a couple of there's a wee bit of dubiety about where the name actually originates. So what you mentioned there, Tiree, the island of Eòrna, as it is in Gaelic. So they reckon they were back in monastic times when St. Columba was doing the rounds, and when there was a kind of a monastic centre in Eòrna that grain was grown in Tiree and brought over to Eòrna, and there's various chapels and things in Tiree that date back to that time. So I guess there's a lot of evidence that supports that. But Tiree as well could be translated. Cheer means land, so land of the corn. So right up until the kind of 2000s, really, there was a lot of barley production in Tiree, also rye and small oats. It's I guess you're right in what you say. It's fertile. I guess it's only fertile in comparison to other kind of rocks in the North Atlantic. I mean, it's a much more fertile place than Coll next door. So I guess it's the Macher and then upland Macher that kind of gives it that, and also the hours of sunshine that we get. Also the Gulf Stream influences the climate there as well and makes it slightly warmer. And more recently, though, crofters, as we're known out there, have turned to kind of silage, and there is barley production, and we've undertaken some of it ourselves just as kind of trials, because we've got some access to some croft ground, and most of the time, I should finish off what I said there before, that the barley's brought on to a certain extent, and then it's just cut for fodder before it hardens. So it's not taken right through to ripening. But we have done that ourselves with some 2-row Laureate. We also tried some 6-row last year that we got from South US that kind of failed on us. So this year we're on a winter rye crop. So we'll see how that gets on. We're currently at 1 each with the arable as far as the distillery goes. So hopefully it's not going to be 2-1 to the arable, and we'll be successful this year, and we can actually ripen some stuff and mill it.
So can you combine rye in the same way that you would with barley? Is it like you treat it the same way?
I do not know. You would have to ask somebody with a combine. I guess because the kernel size is smaller, it might be difficult. I guess they would need to change things like the screeds and stuff that I presume that are inside it. So pass. Ask a farmer. I guess would be the answer to that. The way that we cut it in our trials, because we just did 0.5 of an acre. We actually cut it with a finger bar mower, and we tied it into. Forgive me the English name.
Shoot.
We do it all in Gaelic. Sheaths. Scoping. We know them as, and then I guess small stacks, and then larger stacks, and then we dried it eventually inside, and then we thrashed it on a big tarp. It would be nice to have a combine. It was such a small kind of area we were doing, and there aren't any combines on the island as far as I know. I think there was combines and reaper binders, which I guess are the kind of intermediate thing. But these are all kind of historic gear. If we were going to bring that forward, which we're doing the testing about just now, so we've got a kind of a better understanding with it. But if we were going to make an investment and buy a combine, I guess we'd be checking out if it is. I presume it is. If perhaps it's the settings in the combine or whatever that need to be adjusted. for you to be able to. Maybe some of your listeners tonight have got a better insight than I do into that.
They already slagged me off for like I was farming for like over 10 years, and up here we call like harvest hairston time. So I'm definitely coming over to see you guys hairston rye on a tarpaulin. Just
yeah, the
beating
blisters
the shite out of it.
from the thrashing, because we made our own flails because there weren't flails available, so we just made our own ones, and they were actually probably a little bit thick. So yeah, they gave us all blisters. But yeah, you undoubtedly you break a few of the kernels or whatever. But yeah, we managed to mill it, and just did some trials with it. But we never cast anything with anything that we've grown yet. But the Laureate was really successful, the 2-row stuff. But we were just kind of disappointed the way that the 6-row went. But yeah, hey ho, it's just we'll keep going.
Yeah, that's exciting. A lot of hard work going into making your whiskey. Like seriously, like you're
I
burning
mean, I
your
should say that all the whiskey that we've bought, we get it. All the barley that we've used is bought and brought in for us. So we get it either from Crisp or from Simpsons, and it comes and it's already milled for us. So yeah, it'd be good to lay down a few casks with especially something that we grow ourselves. The rye we can use it unmalted. So yeah, you guys will all know that the malting requires some sort of kilning, really, unless you want to mash with it green, which I don't know of anybody doing at the moment. I think there's some guys in the east coast of America that I read that were doing that kind of thing. And I guess that's what they would have done historically, because there wouldn't have been really a lot of opportunity to kiln your barley after you'd malted it, after you'd got it germinating. So yeah, that might be an interesting thing to try, mashing with some green malt.
That sounds interesting. Yeah. Good evening, guys. I did make it back. I've just been sitting in silence listening to Alain so it's a very hands-on manual kind of place you've got. How much is in your team at the distillery?
Yeah, we're kind of 4 or 5, and we'll draft some more in next week. Next week's a big week for us. We've got the open day of the distillery, and we've got the Tiree Music Festival the following week. So we always do our open day the Wednesday before that. There's a lot of people on the island, and I guess a lot of people that are interested in refreshments and things like that. So it works well for us. We have a little bit of music up at the distillery. We'll clear it all down. We'll take the condensers out, and we'll leave the stills in there. And we'll kind of invert the bottling area and turn it into a kind of a wee bar. And so a big week for us next week. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. So I guess we're really concentrating on getting all the gin that we can made and bottled at the moment. I was just mentioning to Kat there that we did our last strip and run. In fact, we've got one more washback left to strip, and then we'll leave for a while. We'll turn to spirit runs. We've built up quite a bit of low wines, but yeah, you're right. We're really hands-on. Everything happens, as you guys know, under the one roof. It's all really within kind of. We haven't got separate buildings for the mashing and for the fermentation and for the distillations. It all happens under the same roof, and it's all kind of 15 feet away from each other that it happens. So yeah, we've got a large boiler. It sits next to our gin still, really. I mean, I had intended on doing this from the distillery, but I couldn't join you guys last week, sadly. And I could have probably turned the camera around and showed you, but I'm not in the distillery tonight. But yeah, we have the boiler, or the hot liquor tank, as the brewers call it, in the corner next to the gin still. And we actually mash in an old sherry butt that we've converted into a mash tun. So we insulated it up, and it's got a outlet at the bottom of it. And it's 500 litres, so it's a really small mash tun, but we use kind of 100 kilos of grist at a time. So and we mash in a bag, a really large bag. It's a kind of what would fit inside a 500 litre butt, and then we lift it out. We have a kind of a hoist that's on the steel on the roof, and we hoist the bag out of the works, and pump the worts out through the heat exchanger into the washbacks. And the washbacks are kind of 15 feet away from the mash tun. The mash tun's sits on a pallet, so we can move it wherever we like. And then, the wash stills and the spirit stills, and actually the gin still at the moment as well. They sit in front of a kind of a bay window that we've got, and we're about, I guess, 60 meters from the shore. We're facing west as well, so it gets a big buffeting. That front window of ours in the winter time, but
I think that's your front window in the background. I just put it up. I thought I'd done it before, but is that your view? You can almost see through us.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah, where did you get that? That on the website, was it?
It's on the website. Yeah, screenshot.
Yeah, cool. I was like, that looks familiar. Yeah. That's
watching.
I'll tell you a lot about our stills. The gin still's a stainless steel oil jacket. It's kind of, I guess you would say, it's a fancier still. It's got temp probes and a computer, and it's got valves for heads, hearts, and tails. Not that we use them; we kind of bypass them. And it's really efficient, and it's a column still, I should say. So, but it's broken down just now, as things tend to do in the distillery, break down. So we're actually using our spare little spirit still at the moment. It's a copper direct fired still, as all our whiskey stills are. They're all direct, but they're burners that we have underneath them, and they run off propane, and they're worm tub condensers. So that's what our gin's been made on for, I guess, the last kind of 3 months since the big still broke down. But we've been so kind of full on into production and trying to just keep up with the summer season that we haven't got the stainless steel one prepared, and we're repaired, and we're actually on quite a good vein with the gin now. We're not gonna change it right in the middle of the busiest season that we've got. So it'll be repaired at some point.
So I think was Dominic asking about a question further about the whiskey, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was asking. He says Alan might have already mentioned it, but if you have, he apologises. But when was the first malt whiskey laid down?
2021. 2021. So we're looking at releasing our first. It'll be a 3-year-old next year. So November 2024. It was early on 2021. So a lot of the stuff that will be in it, it'll be almost 4 years old. But you guys will know you have to call it by what the youngest stuff that's in there is. We currently have two 250 Oloroso hogsheads, and that's what our first release is in at the moment. It was originally in bourbon casks, so it spent about half of its life in the bourbon casks, and now it's gone into the Oloroso casks for the remainder of its time. So as I said, some of the stuff that's in there, it will be older than 3-year-old. But by the time November comes, we're hoping for a good cold snap and push all the alcohol out of the wood, and hopefully that big temperature range that I was talking about earlier on in the distillery, you get a lot of expanding and contracting of the wood. I know, because we do get leaks. We get things happen with the cask. They start weeping, and especially if you get when it all of a sudden turned warm there in late May, we noticed this, like these kind of little bits of weeping develop. So we're getting a big temperature range. We're getting a lot of in and out with the alcohol going into the wood and then getting pushed back out. So we're hoping for it that it'll be well matured, and it'll taste slightly older than the 3/4-year-old that it is.
What kind of cask selection is going into that? Can you tell us?
Well, I guess all the bourbons we're using are from Heaven Hill in Kentucky. We like quite a lot of the things that Heaven Hill produce. Rittenhouse rye. We like quite a lot of the rye whiskies they've got as well as the bourbons. And we decided to go with their wood. It's all fairly heavily charred stuff. Kind of level 3 and level 4 mostly, and yeah, we thought for our first release. I mean, we're not always going to do this. It's not like a standard practice, but we thought for our first release that we didn't invest in some fresh sherry Olorosos, and just to bring a bit more kind of nuttiness and a bit of dried fruits to the spirit. And they were quite expensive casks, but we thought we'd invest them and make our first release something special. Tiree actually was home to a number of distilleries. I guess we were a little bit like any other island in the West Coast in the 1700s and the 1800s. There was up to 100, maybe even more than 100 people that were licensed to make whiskey at that time. So back in those days, you were able to pay your rent with whiskey. And as Catherine mentioned, that we are a fertile island, and there is a history of corn. It's called, I guess, that colloquial term, corn, meaning rye, small oats, and barley. There was a lot of that production going on back then, and I guess if it was a good year and there was surplus, it would make sense to further monetize your crop by producing whiskey with it. So there was that kind of history there with the island. It was only in the kind of early 1800s that there was a kind of a bit of a crackdown. I guess the church were more involved with life at that time, and the landowner was keen to kind of maximize profits from the land and productivity and all the rest of it. I think there was a report in the early 1800s that's kind of part of history that the islanders were known as idle. There was a bit of a crackdown on the whiskey production, and actually every 10th person caught illicit distilling after the ban was put in place was evicted. So I guess decimated. So it's quite, and ironically, there's evidence that the landowner continued his own production with his own stills for a further 10 or 15 years, which is a wee bit sore, a sore one to take for the locals.
It's always the same with the lairds, though. There's always one rule for them and one for us.
Well, that's it. But I guess any sort of whiskey production after that was completely underground, and there was a big. If you want to look at the century after that, in the 1900s, there was a big temperance movement in the island. So the hotel in the island, the Scarnish Hotel now, was actually known as the Temperance Hotel. I think it was right up till the Second World War, I think. And there was no alcohol sellers license on the island until the 1950s. So I guess it was a dry island for 100 years in a lot of ways. I guess there was a lot of illicit stuff as well. One of the things that got us interested in it at the start, from my point of view anyway, was that Ian did a lot of research into a lot of this stuff as part of his uni course. And my nana, my granny, when I was younger, she would point out to places where she knew she-beans had been, so places where people were quietly making whiskey on the fly. But I guess it would be interesting to taste that stuff, to know what it would be like. I guess for a start, it would have been 6 rows, so it would have been your bare barley, and I speculated earlier on whether it would have been kilned after it had been malted. These guys would have known that tricking it into germinating would have produced so much more alcohol yield. They would have known that fine, so they would have done that. And whether they killed it, I guess not. They weren't storing it, so they were probably wanting it in and out as fast as possible. So it would have probably been mashed green. Now, the stuff I read about that in the guy that does it in America, apparently it brings a real banana flavour to the spirit at the end, which it might be nice, it might not be nice. But,
depends on which like bananas, I suppose.
I should look up the distillery actually. I might do it if I get a wee second, because it'll be in my tabs somewhere. But it would be great. I mean, whether the stuff was aged or not, possibly. Possibly.
That probably would have been drunk straight off the still, wouldn't it? Or maybe
straight off the still, but
mix it with berries and fruits and herbs, isn't they, rather than
exactly. Yeah, that's another thing that we've come across, and I guess storing it for New Year. I mean, the big festival in kind of Highland culture was New Year. Christmas is more of a kind of a later thing. I mean, it was something that was observed, but I guess observed the same way as Easter is really these days, or maybe even less than that. So New Year would have been the big thing. So I guess maybe that was the stuff would have been kind of aged from kind of September through to New Year, and there might be not much left to it after New Year, but it would be amazing to transport yourself back in time to the late 1700s and try some of the whiskey that was being produced on the island. But this was definitely one of this kind of research and stuff that we did was definitely one of the things that got us to the stage we're at today.
So do you kind of want to capture that sort of traditional?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's easy enough to say, but I don't want to say traditional's cheap. And I guess we're kind of forced into it because of where we are. We don't have three-phase power. I know you don't necessarily need three-phase power, but we're miles away from three-phase power. And we didn't have a lot of money when we set up. So we have like 1,000 litres capacity of copper stills. That's about it. And we're on course to produce about 2,800 litres of pure alcohol a year. So up in your guys' neck of the woods, that's pitiful. That's probably done in less than a week, I'd imagine, a lot of the time. So yeah, that's how small we are with our whiskey production. We're on 40 casks-ish at the moment, and they're all quarter cask size, apart from our Olorosos. So yeah, that's how small we are. So we're kind of traditional by default and by the way that we've gone about it, which we don't mind, but it's part of the kind of heritage of the island, and it's part of our kind of upbringing as well. We're both from kind of crofting backgrounds, and things with the mash tun and the mash bag and stuff like that. I mean, it's not cutting corners. It's just being realistic about what we could afford at the time, and working out a way of basically not having to shovel draff around all over the place, because the way that we've got the bag worked out, we can invert the bag and we can get it all into a big vessel, and then it goes out to cow feed straight away. So there's no shoveling from the lauter tun or anything. There's no draff lying around the distillery or anything. So it actually works well for us. And the mash tun was only £60. So it was a cheap piece of equipment, but it does its job very well. We steam clean it all down that, and gets sanitized. It's easy enough to keep it going. And I wouldn't really want a big fancy mash tun after using our bag and our butt for that long. Our stills are our stills. I mean, they're quite precious to us. We're really fond of them. Especially, they've never let us down. As I told you earlier on, the stainless steel, it's a lot colder, it's a lot sharper, it's a lot, I mean, it might be quite fancy and it's all automated and it's very safe, but it just doesn't have the feel and the smoothness and the warmth, and it doesn't keep going like our copper stills do. So we wouldn't change them for the world either, but we could do with them being slightly bigger.
I love how you've created that new mash tun. We'll be looking at whiskey books for the next years to come, and it'll be loiter, semi-loiter, bag and butt.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that still use kind of oak fermenters and stuff. Our fermenters are actually beer fermenters. They're German-made stainless steel ones. It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting if anybody's got any. I mean, we've never used oak fermenters. It would be interesting if anybody had any insight into whether that changed anything with the fermentation, or it had any effect. I couldn't really comment because we've never used one, but I guess it probably insulates us from the heat a little bit, because the stainless steel ones, when it's hot in the distillery, we often worry about the fermentation taking off a little bit fast, and it definitely leads to like a paler wash. I mean, we were looking for a really kind of dark, clear worts, and then similarly with the fermentation as it goes through the couple of days. this time of year, we notice it goes a lot paler, and it's maybe just not got the kind of crispness that it does in the winter time.
So how much of your yearly production is for the rye, or is that just a one-off, or is that like a part going to be a
wasn't
core
a
range?
one-off, but yeah, the guys in the distillery it's tough stuff to mash. It's not careful, it can get really gloopy, and it has a high beta glucan content, and it can, I guess, go a bit like porridgey, kind of gelatin like, and it can be hard for the water to run off. So yeah, it's caused problems like that, and then lifting the bag, our bag up and stuff. We burst a few bags with the rye actually a couple of years ago. Then they sent us some stronger bags, which was good. But yeah, so it was just getting around the kind of mash regime. Actually, the guys in Bruichladdich helped us out a good bit with that, and there was a couple other fellows that helped us. I actually visited the Sagamore Distillery in Baltimore in the US. And it was great to get around there and get a little bit insight into mashing the rye. But yeah, we've 3 casks of it, Kat. So yeah, a really limited amount of it. But yeah, probably when we've released our first malt next year, so 2025, we'll probably be releasing a 4 or a 5-year-old rye sort of towards the end of that year. So it'll be quite special. It's going really nice. I'm really enjoying the kind of monitoring it. There's so little of it. It's not much of a monitoring process, but it's I'm really looking forward to getting that out there. I know there's another couple of distilleries that have started doing rye. I mean, I guess customers and people say, "Oh, that's bourbon." You know, that's something that you hear all the time. Well, it's not, as you guys know. It's bourbon has corn in it. There's no corn in anything that we've distilled. But it's if you want to get an idea of the mash bill, it's quite a high rye content that we used. It's above 75%. I guess that's what was leading to a lot of our problems. I know that other distilleries have used more barley in there. But it's an exciting wee thing to do, and it was definitely. I mean, if you look at historic whiskey production in Tiree, I'm guessing, without knowing for sure, that it would have been like an amalgamation of grains that they used. Whether this was, whether that's 100% true or not, but because if you look at the tonnages and everything that was harvested was all kind of not meticulously, but quite well documented. So small oats, rye, and barley. So if there was that stuff in circulation, it makes sense for it to have ended up in the mash tun. So I guess it would have been a kind of a single grain thing they were kind of doing at the time. So so that's what's kind of led us down this road with trying out the rye. Give rye a try.
Well, we've got Gilbert on. Gilbert works at our Whisky. Nice to see you, Gilbert. So he's very excited.
Wow. Yeah, those guys have had a rye out for a while. I've actually tasted it and I really enjoyed it.
That was just in case we moved on to the rye conversation, I've got one open, Gilbert. So when I came up to see you last time, or down to see you, over to see you, when I came to see you, I don't know.
I had one up there as well, but somebody cleared it away. It was
well, I don't have it. This is my one, and I didn't take your one.
Oh wow!
Hold your glass up, and I'll pour you one.
Well, that's great. Gilbert can tell us how to run it through the combine and how to mash it, because I believe those guys do both of those things up in our beaky.
Well, I read that rye's got no husk, so like you don't get that like natural filtration like you would with barley.
Yeah, that's right.
So it sounds pretty complicated to work with. So yeah, Gilbert, give us the lowdown.
I'm actually using Kirsty's gin for my wee martini here as well.
Nice.
Completely coincidental there. We had one of the guys from the distillery in past the shop and left us some samples. So, funnily enough, I've used that. So, Gilbert, you're well represented tonight with our beaky.
Yeah, you are. We haven't asked you, Alan, what's in your glass tonight. I keep seeing you reach for the glass there.
It's actually a bourbon that we have in here. Yeah, it's a wild turkey.
Nice.
Okay.
We had Rick's ears pricked up when you mentioned Rittenhouse Rye from. What was he asking?
Heaven Hill, yeah, it's great. Yeah.
He was saying it's for Manhattans.
Yep. I quite like it just with ice.
Ice is the best cocktail ingredient. Just good ice and the whiskey. That's all we need. It's not a can. It's just one that tends to come out in the winter because it's quite thick. I've got it done today. I just grabbed it today. It's not new, but it's different from what I normally wear. Sorry, Gilbert. Rick was asking on YouTube there
About the hat.
about the hat. Yeah, he's got keen eyes. Rick. He picks up things.
Another great one from Heaven Hill is Pikesville. I don't know if anybody can get a chance to have a shot of Pikesville. It's available on the big malt selling websites. It's really nice. It is on the dearer side. It's probably about double the price of Rittenhouse, but it's well worth it. I got a bottle of it for my Christmas. So yeah, it's quite a special one as well. But there's so many in America that are rise that are lovely. But yeah, hopefully, I've not had a chance to try the Bruichladdich one. But as I say, the Ardbeke one was lovely, and yeah, hopefully we'll maybe see a wee bit more distilleries turning to it in the future.
Gilbert's
I think they will, though. I suppose, like with wheat. Carry on.
So Gilbert was asking when you're releasing your rye. I think you said the end of 24 or
So they're both in virgin European casks. I should say that as well. Nice. We have one cask that's in an ex bourbon, and actually a Heaven Hill cask. But the two that are in the European oak casks are just going so well, and they'll both be at the start of 2025. So that'll be just kind of 3 months after we've started with our single malt. So we'll maybe hold off until further down the year. I mean, we'll see. We're thinking it's best to do most of our bottling in the winter time when we've got that kind of colder temperature. But yeah, it will be shortly after our single malt is released. But yeah, keep an eye out on it. If MD wants to be joined up to our newsletter, we don't send it out very often. It only goes out every kind of 6 or 8 weeks, and it's my business partner Ian that does it. If you get in contact with us on the social stuff or the contact page on the website, we'll soon add you to the newsletter, and you can keep an eye out on that kind of stuff. And the lead up to the release of the single malt, we'll probably be doing a little bit more. It's tough to know when to start, kind of promoting it and get it, because you don't want to sicken folk with, or is it out now? No, it's not out now. It's not out for another year. Oh well, I'll think about it then. So it's it's just letting folk that know that we have it. But we'll maybe do some tasting notes for it fairly shortly. We'll get somebody that's good at that to do it. We have a lady, Caroline Dewar, who works with us. And she's written some interesting tasting notes. She's been monitoring our single malt. Don't think she's actually tried the rye yet, but once she does, she's good at articulating flavors and things like that. I'm a fairly novice at sort of explaining what I'm tasting. I know what I like and I know what I don't like, but it's getting that down on paper and keeping it interesting. It's quite a tough thing. I don't mind admitting.
There's certainly an art to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I say, it's put into words something that everyone can kind of grasp. It's not just tasting notes, because everyone kind of picks up flavors differently. You have to put that into a story or a memory or something that attracts guys.
Yeah, I guess things like flavour is such a kind of a personal thing as well, because I mean, different flavors and different smells and tastes. They evoke different emotions in people. So you maybe taste something that you've not tasted in years, and it reminds you of then, and it reminds you of the time or how you felt then. So it's definitely a kind of a personal thing, the way that people taste things. So you also feel as well that you're conscious of not trying to tell people what they should be tasting when they taste other things. So I guess it's subjective.
Gilbert's just pointed out that you're producing the first maritime rye. That's there you go. You can put that on your bottles. First maritime rye. I thought it said Marmite for a second, and I thought I'd missed the whole thing.
Maritime, yeah. Well, there's no doubt.
Say about that.
Yeah, there's no doubt that we are maritime just because of our environment. I mean, it's so salty in the wintertime because we're facing right west, where all the prevailing wind comes from. Anything that stays outside the distillery is just rusted within kind of a week at that time of year. And that we're constantly having to clean the windows because of the kind of build up of salt. So we're going to have that influence is going to come through in all the whiskies that we're producing. I mean, even to a certain extent comes through in the gin. I wouldn't have said there was a lot of saltiness that comes off the kelp. It's all been for our gins. What I mean, sorry, it's all been kind of washed down, that kind of slimy stuff taken off it, and then it's been dried out. So it's more of a kind of sweetness in the mannitals that are coming through with the kelp that we're using in the gin. But that environment that we're in with the whiskey in the distillery there, with the big temperature range, we're undoubtedly going to have some influence, but from our kind of our terroir, if you say in the wine.
That's a whole new conversation, that one.
I don't know why concept of terroir upsets people so much. I think I'm not going down that rabbit hole. But.
I was going to say landscape, and I thought I'll say that and see.
Terroir is
like 6 years just on that word alone. Everyone's like jumping on it, right?
Yeah, it's funny.
So you've got a map of Tiree behind you there. Point out to the guys at home where your distillery is in relation to the map.
Yeah, I'll show you. I should say one thing about this map. So this map was it is in fact the first map of Tiree, and it's actually really accurate if you compare it to a modern day ordnance survey map. Right. And so there's a wee bit of a story here, and I should thank His Grace the Duke of Argyll for kindly giving us permission to reproduce this map. So our first release, our bottle is going to come wrapped in this in a tube, so that if it all falls through, I'm going to feel silly now, but this is the plan at the moment for the packaging. He gave us permission to use this because it was commissioned by the current Duke's, I guess, great grandfather in the early 1700s. It's just quite a beautiful hand-drawn thing. I can show you it if you guys can see. It's maybe a little bit of reflection. I'm not good at the. Oh, where are we going? It's because the camera's there we go. So the distillery is here. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
So this is the distillery in an area called West Hynish. So we're this is west here. So we're facing out this way. So there's nothing this way until you reach Canada, really Nova Scotia. If you were to compare that map to a satellite image or a modern map, you would notice some differences, but it's pretty accurate given the tools that they had at the time. And it's quite nice. He gave us a kind permission to reproduce it and to use it as a kind of a layer of packaging for the first release. I guess he's connected to Tiree's whiskey, or his family are connected to Tiree's whiskey history. So it's quite nice that he's joining in at this stage as well.
Sounds awesome.
Cool. So did you grow up in Tiree?
Yes. Both myself and Ian grew up in Tiree, but I'm a little bit, from third year till sixth year, I went to school in Isle. Picked up a few things there, or at least my friends went on to pick up a few things, and we all met together 10 years later. And it's good the way that it's worked like that. a lot of my friends that I went to school with in Isla have had kind of careers in the whiskey industry, and they've helped us out at this stage as well, which is great. And it's great to kind of still keep in contact with folk that you went to school with and stuff, and in a kind of professional way, informally and formally. So enjoyed my time in Isla. I still go back. I've actually been at every Fèis, apart from this year. This is the first year I hadn't been at the Fèis, apart from the COVID ones, since at least 2010. So hopefully get back next year.
With your own whiskey,
Yeah,
perhaps.
exactly.
Well, well, not quite. Won't make it. Not quite in time. Maybe I'll just postpone it to 2025, and I'll turn up with my whiskey then.
Yeah,
You're
like,
a little far for
more.
having your own.
Yeah, I'm to go home with my unpeated stuff. Nothing that we've done's peated. I should have said that at the start. We haven't really used it. It's not really. There's not really kind of peatlands in Tiree. I guess it wasn't really something that was used traditionally. So we just kind of left it alone. We thought we would stay with unpeated malt. So that's just something that I should probably mention.
Is there anybody doing peated rye? Is that a thing? Gilbert would know the answer to that one. Do you know that, Mike? Or does anybody know the answer to that?
I'd say Gilbert would maybe know that. I wouldn't know. I'd hesitate to say that it might be a bit of a clash, but perhaps not.
Yeah.
I think there's an unpeated rye matured in ex-Isla casks somewhere.
Okay.
That's an interesting one, yeah. I mean, it's
Why
that kind of smokiness and that the spiciness, the kind of vanilla, with the kind of the kind of Parma violet taste with the rye. Whether that's something that would be nice with peated stuff, maybe as a kind of a background thing with the cask, maybe, yeah.
Why is rye always? We're usually put in virgin oak casks. Why? What is that about? Why does that happen?
I could put in virgin oak casks.
Yeah, most places seem to put rye into virgin oak. Or does rye like mature differently, or what's the difference with rye?
No,
Does
I guess just because I don't know if that's maybe something that comes from bourbon, because as you know, in order to call your product bourbon, it has to remain in an oak North American oak cask, and it's to be virgin, as you say. So I guess it may be just something that comes from that. I mean, the flavors that come with the virgin oak stuff lend itself well to rye. So, I mean, we've used European oak, which I guess is further kind of boosting that spicy flavour. But we've also got some with ex-bourbon cask, which will have a bit of an effect on it as well. But I guess there's opportunities that to use, I guess sherry there as well. And all sorts of other things. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what a lot of the guys in America do with maturation. If there's a lot of sherry and stuff like that going on there, I'd maybe say no. I mean, I'd say a lot of it would be North American oak maturation. So, that's something that we can explore. I remember Gilbert's your man for that.
Yeah, he's just mentioned there that European oak makes the rye a little bit more friendly for the single malt lovers.
Okay.
Right. Cool. That's interesting.
Facebook. So, I'm getting a little bit confused. I'm thinking of the Rossi. They've got it's ex-rye casks that they mature part of their corn.
I've seen some. I've seen some of that happen at other places as well. That'd be interesting. I mean, our two virgin oak, virgin European oaks casks that we've got for the rye. I think we've earmarked them for a kind of a single cask malt thing after we're done with them. So that'll be interesting as well. But that'll be 10 years down the line. That's scary.
It's scary, isn't it? I mean, you guys are looking at about 40 barrels a year or something like that, and then you're now starting to think, well, when's that going to be ready? What we're going to do after that? What do we need 10 years down the line? It's pretty incredible to start thinking that.
Forward planning stuff, and I think we've agreed, myself and Ian, that these two Oloroso casks, once we empty them next year, we'll fill them, and then that'll be our retirement. So that'll be their second fill, but it'll be a lot longer than their first fill, because their first fill is almost not going to be enough to put mega, the full potential of what they could do in there. I guess it's to add another kind of layer of flavour to our first release. But but as I say, they were quite expensive and they're absolutely lovely. The screech that was in them when we emptied them out was lovely as well. So I think we'll use them for our retirement, our pension when we fill them. We'll fill them in 2024 from a couple of or two bourbons each. 2 Heaven Hill bourbons each that we've got from probably 2022 will go in them, and we'll see what they're like in 20, 30 years time. The scary thing is that you close one of these casks and you don't see it open. That's a scary thought.
So we've got a question from somebody you might know. Is it true that you light the stills then just go fishing? That's the question from Mr. Michael Barford. This sounds like insider knowledge.
Yeah, that leaving stills unattended is a bad idea, especially when you have all your life's work of stock sitting at 12 feet away from a naked flame. So no is the short answer to that. I've been known to go fishing, but there's always somebody on site who knows where the PPE is and the fire extinguishers, and they're trained to put out fires as soon as possible. So yeah, maybe I go fishing, but there's somebody still.
There's certainly somebody else there. And how is it you're firing the stills? You said direct fire.
Yeah, they're burners. I guess they're kind of large versions of what you have in your gas hob at home. So they have an inner ring and an outer ring, and they feed through a regulator and through into a propane torpedo. You need to keep an eye on them. You need to watch. There's various things. You're just careful with them all the time, because you're always, as I say, conscious about all the whiskey stock sitting in the distillery, and we have direct fire. But it is kind of it's protected to a certain extent at the sides, but you obviously you need a kind of a bit of ventilation in the flue so you can get the most out of the flame. One thing that you do, if the wind gets to kind of 45, 50-ish miles an hour, because of the ventilation that's required in the distillery, because of the condensers, you get a good bit of air circulating around the distillery, and it can actually have an effect on the flame. It can actually not make it flicker, but I guess it kind of blows off at an angle to the side. I mean, I'm talking in quite high winds, but it does happen quite often in the winter time, and that really has an effect in heat up times, especially if it's cold and windy. Heat up times can be affected by that, and you can be doing like 18 hours for the stripping run and stuff. It's just,
so is direct firing a choice to do with flavour, or is it just more of a practical choice for what suited the size of your building and things?
It was flavour, and it did suit us. It meant that we were able to set up using domesticated propane supplies. So nobody really wants to come to Tiree with a tanker to fill, because the ferry's expensive. To put an Arctic or to put a tanker on the ferry is dear. So we are able to use 47 kilogram. I guess they're almost domestic propane canisters, and that. I mean, we go through quite a lot of them, but they work for us. I mean, the ideal situation for us would be to have some oil jacket, steam jackets, and to run the steam jacket off a kind of a renewable source. But that's coming. That's in the pipeline. These kind of ideas that we've got of using renewables, because it'd be great. It'd be great, as I mentioned earlier on, to start to use our own local grown grains, be it rye or be it barley, but also to use where we are in terms of solar and in terms of wind to be able to power our production. But just at the scale that we're at just now, we need to start. Basically, we need to sell some whiskey before we get to that stage, and maybe go asking for some grants, because it's not something that we've done since the start. It's basically been an organic thing, and it's come from gin sales and having visitors to the distillery, visitors to the shop, tours and things like that. all that's kind of kept us going in order to buy propane, in order to buy grain. I mean, you guys will all know that since we started with grain production, it's almost doubled in price, and a lot of that has to do with general inflation, and also to do with the war in Ukraine putting pressure on wheat, which puts pressure on other cereals, malted barley amongst them. So yeah, also gas. I mean, the wholesale price of gas has come down now. But yeah, so things like that mean that it's quite costly. So it's always a balancing act, balancing gin sales and keeping the gin side of it profitable, and also keep making as much whiskey as we can to reap the benefits in the future. But yeah, once we've sold some, we're looking at bigger plant, and we're looking at some renewables, because yeah, it's not sustainable, especially at larger scale, using propane the way that we do just now. So yeah, what we would lose in terms of flavour, I guess a certain amount. We've never used anything that's not direct fire, so I'd be interested to taste some low wines of something that was heated differently. So be it steam or oil jacket or something. We've never ever had any scorching in the inside of the stills, of the wash stills. So yeah, I mean, I know that can bring certain toasted flavours to the spirit at the end of the day. But yeah, I guess the power outage of the output, of the propane burners isn't large enough to heat them up so quick that the sediment scorches, or we're just lucky that it's balanced that way. But yeah, I'd be interested to do a kind of compare and contrast. But definitely moving either like the spirit or gin to some sort of renewable would be good, even if we kept going with the stripping stills or the low wine stills with some sort of gas.
That's interesting. Got some pretty good comments there. Gilbert's like he's loving the old school feel.
Yeah. I guess it's not old school. I guess there's not a lot of distilleries our size in Scotland. I don't know if it's maybe something that kind of died out and that kind of kept going in the States and in Canada, that kind of medium or small or craft, if you want to call it that, size distilleries is kind of part of their culture, where it was kind of part of our culture. But I guess things like regulation, protectionism, stuff like that meant that the distilleries now are well established, they're old, and they're large. So I guess at one stage there would have been a lot of distilleries our size. But yeah, I mean, nobody wants to be the smallest, but somebody's got to be. So if we are...
I'm okay with being the smallest. I'm all right with that.
I mean, it would just be nice to be more efficient. I mean, I'm guessing the distilleries up your guys your way in Speyside, they're looking for probably 380, 400 LPA from a ton of barley. Well, we work on 280 if we're lucky. So our efficiency is way down, and I guess it's just our size. I mean, we do use fairly low mash depth, so our strike temp when we're mashing is we're in between 64 and 65. We could be a little bit hotter than that and potentially, convert a little bit more and get some more sugar in there. But what we're trying to do is keep the kind of malty flavors low and make the good wood and the environment do the talking with the drink, the end product, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I mean, we could look at efficiencies in terms of the mashing, but I guess just the rest of the plant is inefficient because it's small. Another thing that we don't do, which we wish we could, is to kind of recirculate our heat and catch our heat. So a lot of what we heat up in our condensers, that heat's then wasted, where I know that larger distilleries are capturing that heat and it goes back round and it heats up their boiler for them, or it preheats the wash for them, things like that. I'd love to get a system like that in place that meant we weren't wasting anything that we were generating. So doing something renewable and harnessing the heat in the condensers and byproduct heat. So for instance, what runs through our heat exchanger from cooling our mash, because as you guys know, we cool the mash from kind of the high 60s after the second water's been in. We want it right down below 30 or 33-ish before we had we had our yeast in. But yeah, that heat's really wasted as well at the end of the day. So yeah, it'd be great to be more efficient and better use of the energy that we're creating.
Yeah, it's a big thing just now, isn't it? That sustainability and reusing energy.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense from two it makes sense for an environmental point of view. I mean, I think everybody will agree that I even noticed that the climate's changed a good bit from when 10, 15 years ago when us guys or other guys here or maybe longer than that, folk been at school. But it's and it's also cost you money. So if it saves you money and it makes you more efficient and it's better for the environment, it's really a no-brainer when it comes to a distillery. But we just haven't had the cash. I don't mind admitting it, because we actually we really buy as much grain and as much wood and as much gas as we can at the moment. We're just kind of heading for that day to November 2024 when we can start releasing our whiskey, because we're going to do some cask sales as well after that. So yeah, we're probably going to offer up around about 5 quarter casks a year. I know it's not a lot, but we've been inundated with people looking to buy casks, and we've just said no because we just wanted to get to that stage where we could release our first release and then look at doing that afterwards. So once we've done that, we're really going to be looking at our plant in detail. But we really like the vein that we're on just now. With everything. So yeah, if we changed up that plant and we probably wouldn't be happy. We'd probably end up going back to the old plant. But as long as we can start reusing some heat, we'll be a little bit happier.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the LPA, I remember a story from a rather famous distiller who I won't name him because I'm not sure how embarrassed this story could be, but he was saying he'd recently been in charge of the reopening of a distillery, not just 100 miles away from you guys. And he was at a conference with a heap of master distillers or distillers and that. And they're talking about the LPA in the conference and said, you should be getting like 350, 360 at the LPA. And everyone's kind of, oh, yeah, we get that. And he's sitting there, shit, I'm only hitting maybe 250 at best. He's like, what am I doing wrong? So he sat the whole meeting or the whole conference, the whole day, like shaking himself, thinking he's doing something completely wrong. And then at the end of the meeting, he went up to one of the other guys and he was like, so how are you getting this? And he's like, no, nobody's getting that. Everyone disagrees because nobody wants to admit in front of the whole room that that's what they're hitting. And it's like, just forget what you hear in the conference. Speak to folk one-on-one and they'll tell you exactly what they're getting.
Well, that makes me feel a lot better now about our getting a pitiful. I mean, one thing I should say is that we noticed actually when we started adjusting the water pH, that we were getting a lot of seemed to get better conversion. The Tiree water, the water that we're using comes from a borehole, not far from the Macher, just across the kind of towards the beach from where we are. And this is a kind of a sediment-rich, sandy kind of area that the water comes from. And if you use a particle meter and you test your water, you're drinking water in Tiree. It's just a lot of sediment in it. It's some of the hardest water in the UK. So the south of England, the sort of limestone landscapes down there, they have a lot of hard water, a lot of sediment in there. And also us, just mainly because where the water supply comes from. And it comes from these boreholes in the Macher. So yeah, we're up at 500 ppm with the water, and we're getting a really it's kind of pH neutral. So it's around about 7. Most of the reports get. Places like Isle will have a natural water of about pH 4.5, something like that. So we're trying to get into that more acidic range. And once we did that just by adding food grade citric acid to the boiler, really. And it's not, I think it's roughly around 400 grams to 1,000 litres ish. And that brings the pH down from 7 down to a pH that's more suited to brewing, I guess. And we noticed a good kind of 10-20% difference in in what we were getting per ton after we did that. So that is just part of the regime is to add the ice cream citric acid, as the boys call it. It's the stuff that goes in ice cream. Goes into the water before we mash with it. So that's just a wee bit something interesting about the water in Tiree. So it's also the same water that we use for proofing the gin. So bringing the distillate, which is around about 74% ABV, bringing that down to 40%. So we have an RO filter, and that works hard. And that brings it's actually 4 carbon membranes, and that brings the parts per million from high up in the 500s down to like 9 or 10 or something. So if you don't have that really clean sediment-free water when you're proofing or you're reducing the distillate, you're going to get some sort of lution and clouding and things that you don't want. So, yeah, the water in Tiree is tough to work with. And then, of course, it all fills your condensers full of rubbish, and your condensers are caked in crap there. So, yeah, that's just another thing to think about. But
it sounds like hard work making booze on Tiree. Like, you guys are
it's not really. I'm just good at complaining. It's actually a privilege. I should say that it's a privilege. And another thing I should say is that the locals and our friends and our family and our relatives in Tiree have been nothing but supportive. Because there was a couple of raised eyebrows at the very start, but apart from that, we've had nothing but support from the local community, and yeah, it's actually been a privilege. It has its it's difficult at times, and it's mainly just weather really that causes the bother. Weather, as in ferries being cancelled and stuff not arriving in time, and if you have a breakdown and stuff, you could maybe nip to tool station or screw fix or whatever, and you could get the tool that you needed to fix that particular bit of equipment. Well, it's 2 or 3 days down the line, and then the winter time you have a ferry cancellation and you need to wait a week for it. So it's really just weather, but I guess people have been struggling against the weather in Tiree for thousands of years. So we're not.
I was gonna. Rick did ask if you wanted to visit Tiree, would you get a ferry or a plane? I'm not sure if there's regular flights to Tiree, is there?
There is. So we've had an air, and we've actually got more runways than Heathrow, believe it or not. So there's 3 runways in Tiree, and so there was an RAF base was built there during the Second World War, so what they did was they had Halifax and Lancaster bombers there that were converted into reconnaissance ships. Reconnaissance planes, I beg your pardon. So these planes would go out over the North Atlantic, and they would, on some occasions, search for submarines and enemy or German warships. But they would also take weather readings and actually formulate a forecast. So actually, believe it or not, the D-Day landings were postponed by 1 day because of weather information that came from the Tiree station, because they realised that there was not going to be favourable weather by the time that whatever system it was they detected had made its way across the UK and all the way to the beaches in Normandy. So that's where we got our airport from. I guess if it wasn't for the Second World War, we probably wouldn't have an airport. But we do have a small airport, and we run de Havilland Viking Twin Otters up there. So they're a 16-seater turboprop aircraft that run up there actually twice a day. So you have a morning flight and an evening flight, but it's routinely cancelled because of mist and things. There seems just to be a lot of moisture in the air at this time of year over recent years, and I guess other places are the same on the West Coast. And yeah, it is cancelled quite often, but there more often than not you'll get at least one flight a day to Tiree. And the ferry runs daily from Oban, and in the winter time I think we're down to 4 sailings in the winter time, and that's what brings all the freight. Really, it's only kind of the mail and stuff that goes on the plane, but our bottles, when they go out direct to customer, if they go out by Royal Mail kind of website stuff, so they do actually go on a wee plane down to Glasgow, and then but our wholesale stuff that goes by pallet, that goes away by ferry.
We've got Callum Fraser watching in from the Valley of the Green Grass. So the learned amongst you will know exactly where we're talking about. He's saying we fight the weather all the time. I thought he was going to start on a Winston Churchill quote there. We fight the weather. But he says some snow would be good. I don't know if you got the rain earlier on today, Callum, up with you, but we had a couple of torrential downpours here today. So hopefully some of that made its way up to your wee valley up there. And Rick is asking, Alan, have your efforts on Tiree inspired anyone else on the island to consider in your...
People ask that quite a lot when they come on the tours, and I think it would be great, personally, if somebody else arrived and decided they were going to build a distillery in Tiree. I think that would do nothing but bring more interest worldwide and from the kind of the Scottish sort of contingent that are into their whiskey and things. But no, nobody's got into it yet. There's actually a small brewer on the island, and he makes but he's keen on keeping his stuff island only. One thing I'm jealous of that he has a really large boiler, and he runs it off a solar panel that's no bigger than your door. So that's why I'm so keen on renewables. And when he doesn't do a lot of brewing, so when he's not using his hot liquor tank, he circulates the water around his house and heats his house off a simple wee solar panel. But no, there's no competition when it comes to the gin or when it comes to the whiskey. But I would really welcome that, because I think that makes you more of a destination if there's more than one of you, and it makes you competition is there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
I suppose it might cut your shipping costs as well if you were buying in enough grain or malt for two distilleries.
Exactly, and casks and stuff as well. That would we could chip in together and buy ourselves a lorry.
Yeah. So if anyone's watching from Tiree, get your finger out, get your plans in place. Let's get a distillery out there.
How do your tours work? Is it just a sort of ad hoc thing, or do you run them?
Yeah, we run them every day at 3 o'clock. So they run, this time of year, 3 o'clock daily. You come along, you pay £18.50 for a tour. You get 2 free gin and tonics with your tour. We'll probably include a whiskey on that, or make it or a whiskey or a gin and tonic when we have some of that next year. But you come along and you hear a little bit about the history of the whiskey production and distilling in Tiree. You get to when you first arrive, we've got a wee kind of a terrace, I guess, where our shop is, and you sit there. Then you head over to the distillery with your first free drink, and whoever's there talks you through the stills. So we've got the gin still, the stainless steel still, and we've got all the washes and the spirit or whatever. And showed you around the rest of the gear, all the plant that's in there, and and then head back over to the shop for your second drink. It usually takes about an hour, and they're really well attended actually. We do one a day, but for TMF, for the Tiree Music Festival, next weekend, 8th of July, we actually run 3 tours a day, and you can actually be bussed up from the festival site for that. We ran that last year, and it was really successful. We also run gin schools, so we have wee 1.5 litre stills that run off wee burners that we have, so you can come along and you can actually distill yourself your own bottle of gin, a full sized as well, a full size 70. So that we run that one day a week on a Wednesday, and that's also fairly popular. And nobody's actually come and made a rubbish gin either. It's we've got this great list of ingredients. A lot of the
keep all the good recipes and think, well, maybe I'll have that one.
Well, you should. It's funny you should say that, because see our summer edition gin that we've just started making. We actually pinched the idea from. I'll not mention who she was, but the gin that the lady produced, it wasn't a million miles away from her. We told her we were going to pinch it right enough. It wasn't a million miles away from what she'd produced. It's a very simple gin. Our summer edition gin. It's juniper, chamomile, watermint, sweet peels, so orange and lime. So just five botanicals, and it's quite a refreshing, sweet, citrusy summer gin. So yeah, it goes down well, and thanks to herself for coming along that day.
Sounds great. So how did you? I'm not sure if you mentioned this right at the start. While I was kind of working on my tech issues, how did you get started in the whole production side of whiskey? What was the moment that you thought, actually, I'm going to go for this? Was it time in Isla, or was it a Tiree connection? Or?
No, it wasn't really. I guess myself and Ian have both got different backgrounds when it comes to our education and things. Ian actually studied at Conservatoire, and I studied at. I was actually in Aberdeen. I studied at Gray's School of Art. So we both had kind of arts-based backgrounds, but we were musicians together, and we still are. So that takes up a little bit of our time these days. Not half as much time as it used to do in our younger days. And we always kind of thought about an industry that we could do in Tiree. So something, something that wasn't crofting or fishing or teaching, So we thought through both of our sort of research and both of our dissertations and things in uni, we actually used Tiree quite a lot, and we were researching history at Tiree, and this always kept popping up. And being musicians at the Fèis for so many years as well, and seeing the kind of the economy that can grow around about distilleries, it was something that we thought, it's kind of a shame that the distilling died out in Tiree in the way that it did, and somebody should be doing something about that. So why don't we do it? And then, well, if we don't do it, somebody else will. Yeah. And so we thought we'll do it. And when we set the company up in 2012, we're both still at uni. Finished 2013, and I did. Ian was a bit later, and we set the company up, and then just around about that time, the kind of gin, if you want to call it, a boom was coming on, and there was. There's no such company as Tiree Gin, or these are just brand names. So the company's Tiree Whisky Company. So that's what the company was set up for, to make whiskey. But it just so happened that it was easier to start, I guess, get yourself in there and start producing a gin and get your name out there and your product out there, and then use anything that you can gain from that to put towards the kind of bigger picture, which was the whiskey, which came eventually kind of 4 years later. So it worked out so far. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you're far from the only ones doing that. You know, you've got so many gins
that's true.
that are whiskey distilleries at heart, but we now all know them as kind of household names and as gin. But I dare say in the next 5 to 10 years, that's all going to change. We're going to know them as established. Hopefully, they'll all be established whiskey distilleries as well.
Yeah, that's right. You get a wee bit like, you're kind of known for the gin, but nobody kind of knows about the whiskey. Say, oh, the gin distillery, like, whoa, we're actually a Scotch whiskey distillery. People, I mean, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. The people that like whiskey will know, and the people that like gin will know. And quite often we find that in families, there's somebody who likes whiskey, there's somebody who likes gin. So it's handy that way. It's not just we don't know anything about whiskey, we just like gin, and people have. So I guess it's going to be a good thing, really.
Is that why you chose the old-fashioned spelling for the gin, for the Tiree, and
basically when Tiree was when the last distillers were in Tiree, that's how it was spelled. So it's had lots of incarnations of its spelling over the years: Tyrii, Tyri, and the way that it is on the gin bottle, and then it got changed to Tiree. It's had lots of incarnations, but the last time the distillers were there, that's the way it was spelt. So we decided to go with that. Plus, we thought it looked quite nice. It looks a wee bit nicer than the eye.
Yeah, it does.
And interestingly enough, the parish of Tiree. So if on your birth certificate and your things like that, marriages and things like that, the parish of Tiree, if you get married in Tiree, is actually still spelt the parish of Tyree. So
that's cool.
I guess it's correct in some way.
Yeah, it's like we've got a hill in the village that I grew up in, and it's some people spell it with an I, some people spell it with a Y, and like I think the I is the traditional one, and the Y is the modern one, but they're both right. It doesn't really matter. They both get pronounced the same.
There's actually Ian knows this a bit better than I do, but I think the Tiree spelling was changed in 1901 because there's a place in Aberdeenshire called Tiree. Is there Tiree? And I think apparently the mail was being confused with Tiree in Aberdeenshire and Tiree or Tiree. So that was one of the reasons that they reckon that it was changed. But there must be loads of places in Scotland that are spelt the same way. So I don't know I don't know if that's 100% true or not.
Well, we get phone calls every 5 minutes for the Inverary whiskey shop. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Hello, I bought a whiskey from you last week, and it hasn't arrived yet. Or have you got? I see you've got this new gin. No, not us. He goes, yeah, she posted it. No, definitely not us.
Oh,
You're the
no.
Inverary whiskey shop. No, wait, Inverary. Aye, that's what I said. No.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Maybe there is some truth in it then. Maybe there was somebody in Tiree was getting confused with
I've heard
Tiree.
of a place called Tiree.
I don't know if it's maybe just south, is it? Between kind of Aberdeen and somewhere south.
Sorry.
Peter Coulter or somewhere, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I think I recall seeing a sign for it. Maybe one of our listeners or viewers will know the geography better than me.
There's Tory.
There's Tory, yeah.
Not to be confused with Tiree. That's a very different. Very different.
They're both on the coast.
There's a beautiful lighthouse out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Or maybe it is.
They've rejuvenated Tory, so yeah, it's on the rise.
Good.
We should ask you about your band that you're
I was
in.
going to say, yeah.
You're in Trail West, the band you're in. Yes. So do you play the festival?
Yeah, we play at the Tiree Tiree Music Festival. We're actually
you need to do that.
That should be the next thing that we have. Yeah. But
we're also have your own day on the Isle of Festival.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. That would be a great idea. Do you know if we could get in touch with Logan here and get them to put on the biggest plane they have and take everybody from Isle up to Tiree just for a few hours and then bring them all, or maybe a one night, bring them all back down. That would be great. But
let's do that.
I think the shopkeepers and the hoteliers and things in Ireland might have something to say about that. But their festival is brilliant and it's well established, and I've enjoyed myself at it in a number of years. But I guess it'd be a little bit tougher to have a festival when it's just yourselves. But if we have the open day, which was an idea that we pinched from the Eòrna. So yeah. If we get that other distillery on the island, then you never know, we might organise ourselves a little bit of a whisky festival. But as far as Trail West is concerned, we don't do as much as we used to in our younger days. We used to do a lot of gigs. We used to do a kind of 100, I think the record's like 125 gigs a year or something. So almost like a gig every 3 days. We don't do that anymore. We've kind of... slowed down in our old age. So we've all got different kind of interests now and things that we're kind of pursuing inside and outside music. But yeah, we're actually off to Gaelic on Saturday to play up there. It'll be our first gig in a wee while, and then we're heading to Tiree Music Festival next weekend, and then that'll be us until the Cowell Highland Games in Dunoon in August. And then we have, I don't want to announce anything that's not been announced yet here, because I'm not the usually announcer or the organizer of any of the dates or whatever, but we are definitely doing a Barrowlands gig in September, which we've done the past 2 years. But I better stop there before I get into trouble.
I went to a gig at the Barrowlands recently. It was like last year. It was the first time I've ever been, and I saw things that I've never seen before. But it was great. It was a great night. But yeah, it's an education.
It's a fantastic venue. Such a history, and it's always a real privilege to play there, and to get to be in the dressing room that some of the greats of Scottish music and world music have been in. And it's great to have your family around and your friends and stuff as well. And it was also great to sell it out as well. So it was.
Are you on Spotify?
Yeah, we're on all that stuff. Yeah, the Spotify.
We have a playlist at the distillery that I work at. I'm not going to mention the name of, But because everyone takes the mick if I mention the name of it. But I've filled the playlist with your music today. So everybody's like, "What's on the playlist?" I'm like, "Well, you'll have to watch the chat tonight. You can find out." So there you go.
Make sure you leave it on repeat when you go on holiday. Just sort of playing over and over again. We can make maybe 8 pence or something back from Spotify.
Well, they're just glad because I filled the whole playlist with I like a band called Nightworks, so I filled the whole playlist with that.
Nightworks are great. Yeah, we love Nightworks as well.
I love them because they were at Bruichladdich this year, were they not, for the festival?
Yeah.
I was gutted not to get over, so I filled the whole playlist with it, and nobody else kind of is into them as much as I am at work, so they'll be glad for the change. So we've got all your music on it now.
Fantastic.
What was the name of the band?
Trail West.
Trail West.
So there you go. It'd be good fun though. So did you just travel around the UK, or did you go like abroad and stuff when you were?
Yeah, we did a few things abroad, but I guess we didn't embark on any worldwide tours or anything like that. But we've been. It's taken us all over. We can't complain. We've been in Singapore. We've been in Greece, Germany, Ireland, loads of places. Struggle to remember them all now, but the abroad gigs were fun, but there was something we did when we were younger. It wasn't really, I guess it wasn't like we weren't being paid that well for it back then at the time, the abroad stuff, but it was great to get a kind of free holiday with your friends and stuff. But definitely Scotland is where our market is, and where at the moment our kind of listeners are, if you want to call it that. And we're glad we're in the position now to be able to put on our own shows for them. And so we do the festivals. We do as I said, TMF, and we'll do various different festivals. But we're also putting on our own shows, which is something that we're quite passionate about. Being able to, organise the whole kind of thing ourselves and put on a bit of support and make it like a kind of a special night for our listeners and whatever.
Oh, cool. It'll be fun. Very good.
That sounds very good.
Have we got on top of all these questions? There have been loads of questions.
I think so. We've maybe got some more in. I am shamelessly a way to plug your band as well. I'm just getting the link here. So guys, give the band a follow. There's a link just coming up in the chat if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook.
I think everyone's figured out where your other Tiree is in Aberdeenshire. There's a whole. Did you see that further up? There's a whole stream.
Band from Fraserburgh, I think.
Yeah, so you're right. There is a
Tyrie. So it's another way of spelling Tiree.
But it must be Tiree. Is it Tiree, the way you guys say it?
Probably, because we say everything wrong.
No, we say it in our own way. It's not necessarily wrong. It's just our own way.
Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Yeah, but I guess that was one of the reasons that was kind of cited by the historians or guys that have done more reading than I.
You seem to know a lot about Tiree, though. You should be on the tourist board.
I don't know anything. You should speak to Ian. You should get him on. He knows way more than me about history and things like that. Well, I just pick up some stuff off him and then jumble up some info and regurgitate some dates. But I got some of the main stuff right. But Ian's really good with facts, figures, and dates.
When you release your whiskey, we'll get you both on.
That would be brilliant. We'd love to come back and be able to do. We could maybe do a wee tasting from the distillery. It'd be great to show you guys. I know I've described it. I know you've got a wee photo up there, but we've actually, looking at your photo, we've done a wee bit of work since then.
Okay.
There's some stuff. We've got some cladding around that large bay window now to make it look a little bit less shell-like, and there's been various other kind of developments in the place. So it would be great to come back and do a wee tasting from the distillery one night when we've launched the whiskey. And
you're going to have to do something like a D-Day launch as well, and have it one day later as well. 3 years and 2 days because it was delayed an extra day.
Weather delayed us. No doubt there'll be some. It's November anyway, so no doubt there'll be some sort of delay. If folk have got it for Christmas time and it doesn't get there, that'll be the main stress. But it's always a worry for us because we have the last postage day before Christmas. We have to kind of advance that a little bit to make sure, because we're always worried that people order gifts and then they don't get their gift in time for Christmas or in time for birthdays and stuff like that. So it's always a wee bit of a kind of a stress when you're on the bill. You don't want to kind of upset people or kind of ruin a special day for anyone.
So, I mean, you've got so much going on. It sounds pretty awesome. I haven't done much island hopping in my holidays, but there's so much going on over there that I think it's a must next time I get some time off to come and do a little bit of traveling and maybe
definitely. You guys have been most welcome. I mean, it's at this time of year, it's a lovely place to be. We're fairly far north, as you guys are as well. You'll know what it's like. It doesn't really get that dark unless it's really cloudy. And we've got some pretty stunning beaches and the distillery and some good hospitality. And if anybody's interested in water sport, we're quite a centre for surfing and for windsurfing and for kite surfing. So you can water sport during the day and or fishing if you like. And, you can enjoy a wee cocktail or a wee gin in the evening. We're always looking for, are always welcoming new kind of holiday makers and tourists to the island.
It looks beautiful.
Thanks.
We'll get the whiskey bus out there, Mike.
We have to. Yeah. We'll get. Hopefully, the ferries have sorted themselves out sometime soon, and we'll get.
Yeah, they're all working at the moment. Yeah, they're all going. It's always scary at this time of year in case there's a breakdown on the network, because then there ends up being a jumbling around of boats and stuff, and there's always somebody loses out. So at the moment, it's South Uist that are losing out. It's been well documented that they haven't had a ferry, so they're having to go to North Uist to get a ferry, which is a huge inconvenience to the businesses that are working in the south end of the island there. I mean, we're lucky we've got our ferry at the moment and it's working at the moment, touch wood, but I mean, I'm not going to go down that. I'm not going to get. There's been plenty of people bashing Alain recently. They don't need me jumping in and bashing them as well.
Yeah, it's been such a positive vibe tonight, so we don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. No politics is a good rule.
Alain, it's been great to have you on. Thanks for agreeing to give up your time on a Thursday night and join us. It's been great fun.
It's been great talking to you guys, and hopefully everybody that's listened is enjoyed it. And as I say, anybody can get in contact with me if you just head to www.isleoftireedistillery.com website and just look up the contact page. It's easy there, and you can get in touch with us guys, and we'll be happy to get back to you.
Fantastic. Yeah, sign up to their newsletter.
Yeah, our newsletter. Keep an eye out on our newsletter. You've got all the info about the whiskey coming up. It's going to be an exciting year.
Yeah, and then we'll help you sell out Barrowlands again. We'll all head down for that. Sounds like a good night out.
Brilliant. Yeah, we'd love to see you there.
Fantastic.
Well, guys, if you've got any last questions, fire them in now. And otherwise, Alain, thank you so much. I wait to see the whiskey coming. I think it's going to be pretty exciting. The rye as well, for something completely different. And we have got the gin in stock. I think we've got the pink Hebridean gin in at the moment, but we also regularly stock your own gin as well. So the kind of core gin. It was. So if you're looking for something from Tiree in the meantime, guys, that is the bottle. That is the back of the bottle that Kat has just showed you.
I always get it wrong. Every time. There it goes. There it goes. The back's just as good as the front. It lists all the botanicals in Gaelic at the back, does it not?
Yeah. Myself and Ian are both Gaelic speakers. We're kind of brought up that way. We thought it'd be nice to label some of the stuff we knew by the native names.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So that's why I was shown in the back, actually. So it was completely intentional.
We'll go with that.
Okay.
Great. Kat, before everyone disappears, who's on next week?
So next week we have Stuart Baxter, who is Global Brand Ambassador for Inverhouse. So if anybody went to the Speyburn Open Day, Then he's going to come along and chat about that and some of the other brands that they have.
Awesome. That sounds good. Look forward to that. Speyburn was kind of one of the highlights, I think, from Speyside.
Yeah, definitely.
So many people in the shop raving about it. But, but not just Speyburn, they've got Annick, they've got Blether and Old Pulteney.
Old Pulteney as well, yeah, exactly. He's going to talk
about
about
Hanky Bannister, which I think is one of the best names of blended whiskey out there. The Hanky Bannister is theirs as well. So that's going to be awesome. So guys, if I don't see you between now and next week, or if we don't see you at all, give us a shout and or join us next week. That would be great fun. Oh, we've got Callum Renton. Mr.
Big Trail West
has just chipped in. He loves Trail. His daughter loves Trail West. She'll be at the Tiree Music Festival cheering you on.
Wow.
You've got fans already. So yeah, you have to give her a mention. I don't know her name.
We'll give it a shout out.
Give Callum's daughter a shout out. There we go. Cheers, guys. I'm away to help the wife bathe the wee one. I can hear him skirling in the next room. He just got his jabs yesterday, his third inoculations. So he's a wee bit grumpy. So I'm going to go and help soothe him. That's why Rick said he wasn't happy to see us. But he normally is. But today he's just a bit grumpy. So I'm gonna go
not easy.
No. We'll help him out. But yeah, Alan, enjoy your weekend. Hope all goes well next week with the open day. And look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks for having us on, guys. A great show as always. Thanks very much.
Cool. Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care.
Good night, guys.
Cheers, guys.